Hi, friends. So this week's episode is a real testament to authenticity and candidness. Yep. But we really do want to take a moment to say, Debbie and I delve into two things. We delve into relationships, and then we do delve into politics. And the truth is, out of respect for you and for taking the time out of your day to listen, we want to give you the opportunity to know that if that's a topic that just does not resonate with you, or that's not how you want to spend your day, then we are totally understanding of that. We're just giving you a fair warning that that is what we're going to delve into. And if it's not for you, that's okay. Then come back next week.
Yeah.
But if it is for you, or if you're willing to take a listen, then we, A, really appreciate that. But B, I think it's an important lesson, because if there's anything this episode teaches us, is that Debbie and I can talk about just about anything. And at the end of the day, no matter where we are, no matter where we stand, we have mutual respect for one another. And I think that's ultimately what our hope is the biggest takeaway of all.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I really do feel like there are a lot of really great key takeaways from our conversation that you're about to listen to. And I want to say that if you're listening to us, that I hope you understand that we bring nothing but our authentic self every time we show up. And that this episode is probably one of the most powerful episodes that we've done yet, because it shows you who we are and that we truly care about one another, and that we know this world is filled with lots of different opinions and things that may cause some stress or some uncomfortableness. But we're in this, and we want to make sure that people know that it's okay to be uncomfortable, and it's okay to have perspective of someone else's views, and that there's a lot of good that can come from just opening up a conversation. Welcome to the Success Resequencing Project. I'm Debbie Ponticus.
And I'm Jenn Newman.
Join us as we challenge the traditional definitions of success so you can build a fulfilling path of your own.
Get ready for inspired, candid conversations while gaining tools, inspiration, and confidence to create your own authentic success story.
Hi. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Great.
Good.
Well, it's another day.
It's another day.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, absolutely. And we're just both, again, coming in off of a weekend, which in our worlds is always exciting and delightful and all of the above.
Yeah.
Which is what we keep telling ourselves.
Totally.
Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm great.
Good.
It was an intense weekend. Lots of energy flying around. Do you ever, I'm just going to ask you this question point blank. Do you and Ari ever have those moments where you have to just unpack the suitcase, where you just it's just all got to come out? Do you ever go through that?
I'm going to honestly say I don't know that he and I have had that kind of but maybe I need to understand a little bit more.
I'm not surprised.
From a conflict standpoint, from wow, where are we going with life? Is it or one of you is having midlife crisis type thing?
Fair enough. So, Jim and I have grown up together in many ways. We've been together since our early 20s, and we've had so many pivots and evolutions over all of these 27 years, right?
Sure.
I mean, I've been with Jim long, or at this point, more than half my life.
Yeah.
And we had a weekend where it was, we're both evolving and changing. Jim's on his path, which is a very different path than either one of us would have anticipated when we were first together. My business has taken its own evolution. I'm not in the same place I was.
Right.
And we had one of those moments this weekend where it's amazing how, although we are very good communicators, we're very good at not going to bed angry. We're not those people. We handle it in the moment. We're always handling it acutely. But this was one of those weekends where it just, some things you just have to say, even though you think you've said them.
Yeah. And you may be, and it's about having those conversations where maybe each of you have your own opinion on something.
For sure.
Or maybe you both think something else is more important, but you need to stop and just say, I need to be heard in this moment. And and then the other person is like, well, I need to be heard in this moment too.
Yep.
And then you have to pause and be like, okay, am I willing to listen?
Yep.
and then
For sure.
assess, right?
For
So
sure.
those types of things. Yeah. So I don't think that that's uncommon for any type of a relationship. And especially, I mean, you guys are around each other a lot. I mean, you work from home, he works from home.
Yeah.
I think that's probably why with Ari and I, we don't see each other a lot during the day because he goes to his office, I do my thing. And so when we come together, it's not, funny enough, Ari, I don't know if I told you this. Oh yeah, I did. He is getting his real estate license. Yes. So, and he's not planning on becoming a full-time realtor anytime soon. He's just doing it right now just to help me out, from time to time. He's like,
Nice.
hey, I can go take a lockbox off if I need to or whatever, that kind of a thing. But I had him come with me this weekend to go, because I have a listing that's for rent.
Yep.
And I had an online lead and I didn't know this person.
Yep.
And so I was like, you know what? I just want you to come with me just to be there. And he on the way home, he was so giddy. He was like, oh my God, that was so fun. He was like, I was feeling my real estate. I was like, calm down, slow your roll. He was like, yeah, but it was a lot of fun. I was like, we've always talked about going into business together. And we always then said oh, it's probably a good idea we're not, just because when you're together a lot, you can't, everything blurs together in a sense where there's no separation. But anyway, I'm going on a tangent from your conversation. So all to say is you had quite the weekend.
Yeah. Very
emotional roller coaster.
Yep. It was intense. It was worth it, but it was intense. And I think that that's something someone asked me recently, what you've been married, you've been married almost 25 years, you've been together 27. What's the secret of that? And I'm like, well, it's really not a secret. It's a lot of communication, right? And an openness and a willingness to evolve and change and ebb and flow and recognizing that when you hold each other's best interests at heart, that is to me what the key is. But I do find it interesting navigating midlife from a different perspective. We're not in that traditional trajectory of, okay, now we're approaching 50. Now, that Lila's out of the house. So now this is what the next several years look like. Jim's in the height of, in the heart of school, but in the height of his master's, second master's. I'm building a team. There's a lot of moving parts going on. And I think that in and of itself is a lot for most people to handle. Yeah. I'm reminded that we've handled a lot, so it's not a surprise that we can handle big things, tough things. We've done a lot together. But at the end of the day, we're still human. And sometimes, to your point, everybody needs to be seen and heard. Yeah.
Which is an interesting, I think, I have a question I want to ask you on that as it relates to just more intenseness of what everyone's feeling in the world today and all of that. But before we go into that, if you guys are still listening, we want you to pause and go to Apple Podcasts and just do the little subscribe, follow, whatever you want to do. And then please give us a review, 5-star, because you can't do 10. That would be lovely. So thank you for if you guys could do that. Yes. So, but going on to what you said, do you feel like even within your marriage that things are just a little bit, and this is not a discussion about your marriage, it was just more of do you feel like things are, have a higher intensity these days with all relationships, whether it's your spouse, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a business relationship and all of that, just because of how I feel like on edge society is right now.
It's all day, every day.
There's just this big, I feel like more than I've ever felt, as an adult, a big divide in beliefs. And there's just a lot of craziness going on right now. And it impacts everyone. But so I don't know. I thought we could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think at the heart of all of it, that has everybody feeling on edge.
Yeah.
It is hard to navigate day-to-day life right now unless you choose to be in an echo chamber. It is difficult to navigate the complexities of what has become an incredibly divided country and an incredibly divided world.
Yeah.
And there is very little room right now for people to see both sides. It's basically put your eggs in one basket and that's that. It's become very insular and very solo focused, myopic, I would say. And God forbid that you may be a lot of things on this side, but then there's other things over here that you also agree with. God forbid, because people are getting canceled. People are getting, honestly, they're losing relationships. People are no longer talking to one another. People have made decisions about other people based on our politics. And what's happening is I'm seeing that that's dangerous. It's really dangerous.
Yeah.
When we stop seeing humanity in one another, it's really, really dangerous.
And you and I talk about this a lot, and I don't know how many of our listeners know, but I think it's important for us to make this point, is that you and I, in society's world, or in how they identify,
in their terms,
right, that we are in different sides of a political spectrum, where if we had to like check the box, I have to check I'm Republican, you would check you're Democratic.
No, I left. No? Oh. I'm independent.
Okay. This is news, breaking news, everyone.
Yeah, I did. After this last election, I realized that, I guess it's public knowledge now. I'm an independent. Hi.
I'm it's like one of those commercials.
I did that for a very specific reason.
We can edit that out if you don't want that to be public.
No, it's totally fine. Yeah, right. Hi, Jen's political affiliation is this. No, it's fine. I'm really not. I'm not.
But here's the thing. This is this uncomfortableness, this discussion, this topic is exactly what I feel like the problem is.
Right, because God forbid anybody says anything. My point in that is I'm fine to discuss why.
Yes.
The reason that I did that is because I am tired of being stereotyped by a political affiliation.
Yes.
That does not mean that I have abandoned many principles that I do feel the Democratic Party does better to uphold.
Yeah.
I am not a crazy left-wing liberal.
Right.
And right now, and people on the far right can feel, they've felt that we've all felt the same thing. So I want to make it clear that what I'm about to say is a universal feeling.
Yes.
In a divided world, because regardless of which side you're on, you're going to feel that opposition, right? You're going to feel that contradictory feeling. So I want to make sure that I'm not saying, I'm not a victim of someone else's decisions, okay, or someone else's affiliation. I'm saying everyone feels this, and what's been happening is we're all arguing for who's felt it more, or who's feeling it in this situation versus that. So all it does is just keeps everybody on their sides.
Right.
And for me personally, I made that decision because, as I said, I'm done with the stereotype.
Yeah.
And if I had a box to check that said moderate, that's the box I would check.
I was just having this conversation this weekend. So I had a cousin that came in to visit, and we were chit-chatting. We were talking about family and getting caught up and all of that. And she had made some comment about one of my relatives. And she was like, oh yeah, they are definitely, crazy liberal. And so then immediately my mind went to like, okay, so then I made a comment. It wasn't a bad comment, but a comment that would have been more of a conservative comment based on what she said. And she was like, oh no, but I'm on their side. And I'm like, oh, wait, what? I was like, okay. But then I was like, it made me pause. And I'm like, but why is this even in our conversation? Why is it? Because now, is there like a weirdness? Do we like look at each other like, oh, I thought you were on my alliance and now you're on the other alliance. So should I continue talking to you? Like, what secrets am I revealing? What are you going to say? Do you look at me any differently than I do now? Like, I still think, and it goes back to like, what? Like, and I even told her, I was like, I just honestly feel that it's kind of like when you are born into a religion, right? You are born when your parents are whatever religion they are, and you're born, you inherently are now born into that religion. So you didn't have a choice. Now, when you get older, you can research, you can all that, do your choice, and then you can choose to stay or go. Well, politics are the same. You're kind of born into whatever your parents' beliefs are. And I don't think it's until you get older where you actually learn how to like make a decision for yourself.
Right.
But then it's also like, because you and I have had really great conversations about how we may have different beliefs, but that sometimes it's like, oh, you've opened my eyes to something that I didn't think about because it doesn't directly impact my life.
Right.
And I think that's where I'm like, oh, shoot. Well, yeah, I checked that on the thing because that doesn't impact me, but this does. So I checked yes on that. And you're like, okay, but you realize when you check yes on that, that impacts this over here. And I'm like, well, I had no idea that that impacted this over here, but by checking yes, it certainly helps me out to, you know what I mean? So it's like this, okay, wow, not saying that I like go into this ignorant, but I think people focus on what impacts them personally.
And I think that is the fundamental problem right now in this world, is that we're only thinking about ourselves. We're only thinking about our wallets. We're only thinking about us. And I would love to see a time where we actually start thinking about, especially from a personal standpoint, for me, my personal belief system is, to whom much is given, much is required. And I also believe fundamentally that I am supposed to care. I'm my brother's keeper, right? Like, we're all here to be in community, not to do life alone, and to help others. And helping others has become a very hot topic of entitlement, and has become this mentality of, well, you know, they need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, right? They need, though, you know, God helps those who help themselves. Well, sometimes they don't have boots to pull up to begin with. So if I can help somebody get, you know, it's like, meaning in the general sense, if I can help someone have a leg up and be able to then move forward, that's the rising tide raising all ships. It's not about handouts. It's not about entitlement. There's people that are going to abuse every system, regardless of what it is. There's always going to be bad apples. But that piece now has become, if I feel this, that means I have to check this box. And if I feel that, then I don't.
Right. But, and I will say though, like, what I want, I agree with you 100%, but what I feel is that no one should be judged on what box they check unless you're willing to sit down and have a conversation with them on why they check that box. You know what I mean? Like, no one should be like, oh, well, if you check that, then you're a horrible person. What? No, I'm not a horrible person. And if you check this, then that means you want to help these people, and instead of like putting the country, whatever, like whatever the thing is. And it's like, okay, why don't you just pause for a second and like understand why I did what I did and before. And it's like, that's what I want to go. It's like, whether either side, there's the extremists, I think, in any situation.
Any situation.
And unfortunately, it's the extremists that, it's like the squeaky wheel, right? Whatever squeaks the loudest is going to get the most attention. And that's what is getting the most attention, and what's put on the news and what's put on this. But I honestly, in my heart, feel like most of the country, most of the world has a more okay, I'm going to say conservative, but then you're like, no, it's not conservative. But what I'm saying is a more moderate, I guess, a more humanitarian. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Is like, I feel like we're all a lot more alike than we think we are.
I want to believe that.
You know?
I want to believe that. I think that what has happened over my adult life, watching the political spectrum, I can say with great confidence that we have made it. We are catering to the extreme now. I do have a fundamental problem with several things that are happening right now with our current administration. It is not because the current administration is Republican. I have fundamental issues with dismantling key components to our infrastructure and to our nation that actually make our country what it is. I have a problem with people using that and trying to impress upon everyone their belief system, and using now this tone of religion as, we're going to use that because that's what God has told us to do. I have a fundamental problem with that in a free country.
Yeah.
And my concern is that now we're seeing people get silenced. We're seeing people get canceled out of that. We're seeing mass firings. There's a lot going on in a government standpoint that, in theory, shaking things up is not a bad thing, right? Sometimes things they've got to get shaken up in order to get better. So in theory, I feel that way. And I can see why that's very appealing to people. But I have great concern that that's now trickling down to this notion that, yeah, that is what people voted for. And so I can understand on both sides of the equation why there's been this vitriol, because it does feel personal, right? Like removing our trans military members, for me, knowing that I have trans military members in my family and now they are being canceled. They devoted their lives to service of our country.
Right.
Who fucking cares what is on their birth certificate?
Right.
I wasn't in the service, right? I didn't devote my life to service of our country. That person did.
Yeah.
And was in war zones, was in wartime situations, was in special forces, saw the worst of the worst and devoted their life to our country. That's a problem. That doesn't solve anything.
Right.
So that now is that thing. We have these things that are happening, and that is where it feels personal.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make me a crazy liberal because I don't other people.
Right.
I'm okay that people are different and that people have different beliefs and that people have different religious preferences and belief systems and standards. And I don't need them all to think like me.
Yeah.
I don't want that. To me, that's not what America is, right? That piece is where I'm worried today.
Right.
And I think that is what's ramping up behind the scenes is people feel like they, you know, I use my Facebook as a perfect example. I grew up in the South. I grew up in a very conservative family. My parents and I are politically very different. And that has caused a major divide in my own life that we have been healing and mending. And it doesn't come from not talking about it.
Right.
It comes from talking about it and finding where we're alike, finding where we're closer than we may think. And I say that sensitively because I see on my Facebook, it's almost comical now. Like it could be its own skit, because I have friends in my life that are on both extremes.
Yeah.
A lot of people in the middle. And I've been asked many times, like, how can you be friends with so many people that are not like you? Meaning politically speaking.
Right.
And my response has always been, because they're wonderful people.
That's like, it's the scarlet letter. Like, it's like once you identify, once you're on one side or the other, now you've been branded that you are a militant follower of whoever the leader is.
And in some cases in my world, that is true. You know, I had someone posting on their Facebook about trans people in the military and how the best thing is to, you know, make sure that we all go back to male versus female only, and goes on this rant about that. On the flip side, I have friends that go on a rant about people who identify on the far right extreme. And the truth is, what everybody's ultimately saying is they have an opinion and they're able to express it. And that's the beautiful part about it. The part that I'm concerned about is that those opinions are not going to be able to ever find a way to actually communicate with one another. It's just going to be screaming at each other instead of sitting down to the table and figuring out where we can make progress together.
Well, and that was my point earlier. It's because the extreme on either side is what gets the attention. And so there's not a voice to the rest of us. There's not a voice for someone to say, well, I voted this way, but that doesn't mean I agree with everything that's happening. You know, but there's also this like unbelievable sense of like, we don't know, like we know that there is immense power given to the person who's elected on either what side. But once someone is elected, the control we have as an individual is not a lot. You know, I think that's always the point, right? Right. So it's like,
which is why people are so committed to their vote.
Yeah.
right? Because we do get that vote.
Yeah.
And a lot of people take that incredibly seriously.
Yeah.
Rightly so.
Right.
And now what my question is, I think, as we navigate these times, and I am concerned. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on that I fundamentally don't feel is going to, it's going to hurt more people than it helps, if that makes sense. And I'm sure everybody feels that regard. I get it. Everybody feels it when it's not the person they elect. Okay, whatever. I actually have been able to see past that. And those who know me well understand that I can see that. I'm not an alarmist for the most part when it comes to politics. I usually am like, it's gonna swing back and forth. That's part of what's beautiful about our country. I think what I hope is that people can start to communicate and actually own the fact that the vote actually matters. Yeah. Because I think a lot of people are like, it's just one vote. It's not like whatever. And a lot of people didn't vote, right? And so I really hope people do understand that what is happening today is because someone voted for that. Yeah. The majority voted for that. So it is hard to sit back and not feel like that's what most people wanted. Yeah. You see where I'm going with that?
No, 100%. And I think that I feel like one of the challenges and the issues is that this one person or this one party, I think the fact that so much personal, I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's not just about politics anymore. It's not just about running the country anymore. It's about whoever is in charge now feels like it's their responsibility to force their personal beliefs into their platform. And that's where the waters to me get muddy, because I do feel like a lot of the things that that are happening in the current administration now, like you said, are good. Like that things need to be shaken up because there's a lot.
I didn't say they were good.
Well, fundamentally,
I can see why that's appealing for a shakeup to sometimes mean that that's how change comes.
So where I'm meaning for that, not putting words in your mouth, what I mean by that is there's some, listen, this country's got some problems. Right. So it does take someone to come in and shake things up to make us aware of them. Are they going to get fixed and resolved and all of that? No. But listen, do I believe that the park ranger should have been let go? No, I think that's a bit extreme. But should we go in and really get to the root of why our country's about to be bankrupt? Yes. Yes, that's an important thing for us to understand.
I think that's a fair point. I think, as I shared, I've had people speaking to me behind closed doors asking, are there any things you agree with? And I've said over and over again, I fundamentally, it's like what I just said a few minutes ago, I fundamentally understand the appeal of someone coming in and being the new sheriff in town, right? To say, buck stops here.
And it happens every time. Anytime it shifts, there's got to be now I'm going to flex do a flex and change things up that I didn't believe should have been done. So that's
sure. And that part I'm okay. I understand that's par for the course. I think what's happening and the reason we're saying that it's become personal is because it is personal now. Yeah. We are attacking people.
Right.
We are attacking race. We are attacking sexual identity.
Right.
We are attacking religious beliefs. We are attacking ultimately the financials of others based on where they're at. If they're poor, middle class, upper class, we've got all of that going on. Those feelings of wealth, disparity. All of those things that are happening are personal.
Yeah. And that's the problem.
And that's the problem.
Yes. It's like, I don't disagree. I do feel like if this country was run more like a business, then it would operate better and we would get rid of fraud. We'd get rid of waste. We'd get rid of stuff and we'd actually get out of debt. Like I do fundamentally be that no matter if it's from a liberal or conservative mindset, if it was run as a business, which it is now, I believe, then we'd clean it up no matter what. The problem is that we don't have an HR department.
Well,
and
that
the HR
we
is where it
just
comes
eliminated.
in. Right.
It just
The
eliminated HR
right.
by eliminating diversity,
right.
equity, and inclusion.
So that's where it's like, oh, snap. Like, wait, we can't make this about individual. Like, I don't want you in my personal business. Like, just like if I go into, if I work in corporate America and I go in and I show up for my job, you can't fire me because of my sexual orientation. You can't fire me because of my religious beliefs. You can't now in a publicly traded company, right? You can't, because you're hiring me for a reason. So I'm going to show up and do that. If I don't deliver on what I'm supposed to do, if I am corrupt, if I am doing fraud, you can fire me. But you can't fire me for the personal reasons. And that's the problem is now we've got all this issue. And
Yes.
I agree. I feel like, okay, well, that is distracting everyone by bringing that in. It's distracting everyone from what is truly the problem. When you bring that in, which shouldn't be in the discussion. You should let people be who they are. You shouldn't bring anyone's being into a political or a business decision. It's distracting from what the actual, if none of that had happened, would there be so much uproar about someone coming in and saying, we have a lot of corruption in our country and we need to clean it up. And we need to come together as a country to understand that there's going to be some difficult challenges and difficult decisions that need to be made, but we're going to go bankrupt if we don't. So
I feel that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that. I think that is sometimes hard to take when a criminal is running the country. And so there is a part of me that says, I really want to believe that someone who has gone bankrupt multiple times is equipped and ready to now run our country like a business. But also, let's all keep in mind that running a business, there are many businesses out there that are fraudulent and are corrupt. And so if we can actually stay to the course of doing that, which is to run it efficiently, I'm all for that. I'm not all for literally attacking and eliminating the opportunities for other people because that's, quote, woke.
Right.
Woke is nothing more than being compassionate for other people. And I'm fine. You can call me woke all day because I will take that. But that's the component that the othering is happening all over the place right now. It is to dismantle the things that are actually helpful. And as a woman, diversity, equity, and inclusion, that meant we got to work. That meant our wages got to go up. That meant we had those things. So to make it seem like it's only for people of color, it's only for LGBTQ+, et cetera, it's like, wait a second.
Yeah.
That being taken away is a scary thing because, in my opinion, that was HR.
Yeah.
And now wiping that out is scary to me because now we can discriminate again. And now we can say, no, not you, not you. You look this way, you believe this way, you go in. We wouldn't run a business that way.
Yeah.
You and I wouldn't.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm hopeful, that enough voices can be heard in a calm, civil way of discourse by being able to say, we may have swung too far.
Yeah.
The truth is there somewhere in the middle, because the evolution of the government and being able to clean it up is important. I think the vast majority, regardless of what side someone is on politically, I do believe, and I agree with you fully, that the majority of people think that's necessary.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate, though, because I think we need a new party. And whether it's the independents or something like that, I think if we could all take a test and answer questions based on what we truly believe is real and how we believe the country should be run, and then it spits out, well, here's your party, right? Oh, this is how you have to vote. I think there would be a lot of people shocked at what actually fundamentally their beliefs are and how much, and if it was this middle ground party that was just, and again, I don't know a lot about the independent party, but maybe that's what it is. And unfortunately, they're not getting enough voice and support, or people are too afraid to commit to that.
I think a two-party system is what this country was built on, right? So I think that the third party idea is more complicated than one might believe. Yeah. What I think would be very interesting is for us to not just pretend that one party versus the other is completely opposite.
Right.
And I think that it's okay. And that was my move to independent, was to say, you know what? I am going to evaluate, as I always have, candidates based on their merit, based on their belief system, based on what generally their ideas are, and be able to then say, I'm not just going to vote party. Right? Because that to me is
I wish
why
you could vote
in
topic and issue
I wish
and
we
not
could too.
have to just do one or the other.
I wish we could too.
I think ultimately what I love about the fact that we just spent 30 minutes talking about these very intense debates that many people are having is that we're not fighting.
No.
We're not arguing.
No.
I don't think of you any different. I hope you don't think of me any different. Because we're just two people that are passionate about just wanting to do what's right for ourselves, each other, and the country. And if we can have more conversations like this and make this more of the focus on like, what do we want to do as a humanity to better the world and to move forward and to eliminate hate and eliminate fraud and eliminate all the things that don't bring us all together. Like, where's that? Like, where's those conversations?
Absolutely.
And where's the pickets for that? And where's the, where it has nothing to do about politics. It's all about just bringing us all together and being able to say, I'm going to have this conversation with you and we're going to differ on some things. But when we leave this conversation, we're not going to think poorly of each other, and we're going to respect each other, and we're going to walk away, and we're going to go have coffee, and we're going to have lunch, and then we're going to go do this and that and that, and we're not going to judge each other by the conversation we just had.
Yeah. I think that you said a key word, that it's called humanity. And when we start to work against humanity and we start to pretend that we're not all really truly just one big human family, I think that is the piece where this great divide has become incredibly dangerous. Yeah. And so I think I challenge all of us because every one of us right now has opposition in some form of politics of what's happening in our world right now. We all can feel that something that's happening is not right. And that it's very easy to say, well, they voted for that person and I did, you know what I mean? We get back into that tit for tat division piece. I challenge all of us to lead first with humanity, to look someone in the eye, regardless of who they voted for, or I think let's just leave it at that. Yeah. Regardless of who someone voted for, to lead with humanity. Yeah. That is how slowly but surely I trust that we're going to start to make some changes, is when we honor each other's humanity and, more importantly, honor our differences. It's like Angela Huey said in our podcast when she talked about how instead of trying to all be one, I'm butchering what she said, but remember when she talked about actually let's celebrate the differences?
Yeah, celebrate the differences.
Yeah. And honor and acknowledge that we are all enough as we are. And then from there, we find solutions together. Because if you put a group of people in a think tank and said, our goal right now is to achieve this, but we all come with mutual respect and we honor our individuality and we honor our real human spirit, that's how we're going to make real change. Yeah. That's how we're going to move things forward. And it starts, as my late friend Aunt Jo used to say, charity begins at home. And I always love that because it's true. Change starts at home. It starts with our interactions amongst ourselves, our friends, our business associates, our clients, knowing that we're all diverse and rich and full of different thoughts and ideas. Yeah. And honoring that instead of vilifying it. Yeah. If we can just try it. It's really hard sometimes. It is hard when someone is shouting the polar opposite of something you fundamentally believe. I'm not saying to stay silent. I'm saying it's okay to say, and this is how I feel too. Right. But it's not because I don't honor the fact that you are entitled to your opinion. Right. Right. And as the late Michael Jackson and the great Lionel Richie once said, we are the world. We are the children. It's true. We are the ones who make a brighter day. So let's start giving. Let's start giving. Yeah. So true. I'm here for that. We need more of that. We need more of it.
We do.
Well, we're starting here today.
Let's do it. Thank you. All right.
That's a wrap. Peace out.
Thanks for joining us. If you loved this episode and know of someone who would find value in it, please spread the word and share it with a friend. We are passionate about redefining success, and it would mean the world if you could help us get our mission out to as many people as possible. Please take a moment to write a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. You can also hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with our latest episodes. Connect with us on Instagram at Success Resequencing Project or via our website at www.successresequencing.com. We'd love to hear your story.